Pyrenean mountain chain stands proudly between the Mediterranean and the Atlantic, as if it could keep those expanses of water at a distance, and revealing as diverse a universe as the uncountable number of valleys it contains that stretch from east to west. From the near-arid land of the east up to the Cerdagne, it becomes darker as we move upwards in altitude, a swift descent into the Val d'Aran, swinging back up to the even more beautiful summits draped in colours of browns and whites, then finally dropping back into the green plateaus before diving into the ocean. Despite the rough terrain and harsh climate, these mountains have nonetheless been nourishing and a fascination for those who have taken refuge here. Stemming from Catalonia right across to the Basque Country, people have set up communities here, which in turn have echoed their replies to these mountains, all united under the same vertebral ridge. And perhaps it's also the rumbling of the torrents, the wisp of the wind as it billows through the mountain passes, and the sound of galloping horses that has so inspired the troubadours. And just how many painters, poets, or musicians have expressed their wonder at these mountains. Michel Fenasse-Amat is one of those. He has grasped a handful of the most beautiful poems about the Pyrenees and set them to music.
Caminando, por las sendas paseando, amor siempre cantando. Pero a veces me detengo para vivir un momento, la armonía que encanta mi corazón.
Je suis lié aux Pyrénées.
I've been part of the Pyrenees since I was a child, and I'm still fascinated by their strength and beauty. The idea of composing a whole program of music and to dedicate the whole program to the mountains has come about very gradually. It's come to me little by little with the desire to highlight those different nationalities, different cultures and languages which make up the Pyrenean tapestry.
There are 17 hymns in the album Aria Pirenèus, each drawn from the different languages and emblematic tones of these mountains. There are as many impressionistic facets here, sun-filled like the Cerdagne or Jota, giddy like a farandole or fandango, or just plain romantic like a simple ballad. And so we are immersed in Catalan colours and driven through the Andorran atmosphere. We're sucked into the spirit of the Béarn. We then walk around one of the canyons in the Aragon and dive into one of those refreshing waterfalls. We can drift along the banks of the lakes at the foot of a snow-capped peak and take a moment in time to visit a Cathar castle before walking leisurely along one of the pilgrim roads to Santiago de Compostela. Just here you can see the Abbey Combelong, where King Louis VII of France stayed in the 12th century while on a pilgrimage on the way to the Holy City. Tucked away in a valley in the foothills of the Pyrenees, between Foix and Saint-Girons, is a Roman edifice and one of the jewels of the Couserans heritage. Its garden is quite amazing, boasting an unspoiled area which feels like a unique walk through the ages. This wonderful place is where the Aria Pirenèus musicians and choristers have gathered for the recording of their album.
Actually, it's never really easy to make a recording in a church. The echoing acoustic environment isn't always suited to what you want it for. It's true that for a choir or classical ensemble, it works pretty well. In fact, the studio has been moved. The recording equipment is the same as in the studio, but then with more unusual acoustics, the coldness that you would find in a recording studio. For something like this, we needed something powerful in terms of acoustics.
Au niveau de l'acoustique.
Els Alps d'Itàlia a l'oceà e de Limoges a la Val d'Aran. Bell'Occitania, bell'Occitania, tutta la vita te voli cantare.
How did I manage to make these different pieces of music blend in together? This arrangement also involved orchestrating the pieces. They all had an important common denominator, in that they were composed by the same man, Michel Fenasse-Amat. What's more, there's a theme that links them all together, the Pyrenees. So there's no problem.
This is traditional music, so to speak, but at the same time, the pieces are very original. Firstly, what brings this Franco-Spanish cultural heritage together with its traditions are its cultural roots. Then the very beautiful melodies with its rich harmonies. There's a lot of color and original instrumentation. What I like in particular as a classical musician is the resulting encounter between popular music and art music. Since all this music has been written, very, very well written, requiring the utmost precision. As a musician, I find this very exciting. It's like a great musical adventure.
Among the 17 original pieces of the album Aria Pirenèus, Michel Fenasse-Amat has written 15 compositions around poems in Occitan, Catalan, Spanish, Basque and French, and just as importantly, an original arrangement of Hosanna of the Pyrenees by Alfred Roland. Among these pieces put to music, 2 of them were made with his brother Pascal, and 2 others are instrumentals inspired by those dearly beloved summits. It's also Michel Fenasse-Amat, who is a baritone writer and composer, and who, along with 10 other musicians and 40 or so choristers, has performed the most part of the 15 songs on the album.
I was already familiar with one of these poems and discovered others since I've opened up my research. What drew me into these poems, these pieces, were the strength and simplicity of each word, which may suggest a party, talk about love, simple things from everyday life, and which can almost transport you in a spiritual, almost biblical dimension, in the Bible, in the mountains. These are very special places when you're in touch with God and with yourself. And it was while I was thinking up and writing the music to some of the poems that some of my own words came. That's how I came to write some of the pieces myself, and one of those was with my brother Pascal.
For the mandolin and guitar ensembles, we're amateurs. It's been very enriching working with professionals, especially in such a lovely place. Combelong is in the foothills of the Pyrenees, and it kind of represents the land, the culture, and the history of Occitan culture.
Well, what we find difficult about singing the Pyrenees as a choir is breathing. More than anywhere else, the listener has to be able to hear the mountain air. So we worked a lot on rhythm, because in music coming from the south, rhythm is all important and you really have to think hard about keeping the tempo. It's not always easy because sometimes the arrangements get in the way of the melodies. We've thought a lot about how we actually play the music, precisely how it sounds when we play or sing. When it comes to Basque, Occitan, Catalan or French, it's different. There have been moments of confusion, children, other times we've been joyous, but that's all behind us and all that is left is the pleasure of singing.
My favorite pieces? That's hard to say. They're all different and as good as each other, equal values. But one I like in particular is Hacia Santiago.
Out of all of them, I prefer Te Cantem Occitania.
I like Soliboira.
This new album is about the extension of my artistic process, which is never very far away from the essence of nature and life itself. It's one and the same natural process that inspired me to create a new version of Orpheus and my concept based around Jean-Jacques Rousseau.
It was a great shame to see all these artists saying goodbye after the end of the recording sessions, and so Aria Pirenèus decided to continue with public performances. The first was presented by the Hostal d'Occitania and the Casal Català in Toulouse on the 22nd of October 2015, and it was a great success. Any festivities which include these public concerts represent the spirit of Aria Pirenèus, extending the cultural reach of its Pyrenean nations brought together in that same spirit of authenticity and fraternity.